Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Daily Leader podcast. I'm Brad McDonald here with my co-host Taylor Jessup and our interviewee today, Shane Kuyper, founder of Identity Hoops and The Healthy Competitor. As always, we want to say thank you to the department.
Thank you, department. Oh, this is our traditional cheers here. Cheers.
Oh,
yeah, we got to reach around the microphones. It's a little awkward, but it's going to work.
There you go.
Yeah.
And behind the camera, once again, we have Jesus Frayre with Video Pilot at videopilot.io.
That's right.
So for any of your production needs, don't hesitate to reach out to Jesus.
Yeah.
J
Jesus
at
is the man.
videopilot.io.
Jesus is the man.
Taylor, kick us off. Tell us about our guest today.
Man, I'm excited to talk about our guest today. Shane, dude, we go back a little ways now.
Yep.
Where did we meet? I think we met at church, didn't we?
Yep.
I think Shane and I
God,
met.
You guys need church.
Yeah, we do. We need Jesus. We need something real bad. Our wives would agree with that.
Not anymore.
You're over Jesus now? Shane's arrived. He's gotten so healthy, he's healthed himself out.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
If you get to a certain point, you're like, wow, I'm healthy. I don't need Jesus.
Maybe
anymore.
Jesus should call you.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
just get some,
There's a lot
Little
that's
coaching
happening.
there.
There's a lot that's happening right
I'm
now.
just saying.
Yeah, sure. Jesus has got Shane's number. That's for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we met at church and we've had all kinds of great conversations over the years about trying to be healthy ourselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think, Shane, why don't, instead of me talking about this, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family. Let's start there before we even get into your business. So tell us a little bit about Shane, where you're from, what you do, all those things.
Yeah. I'm born and raised in Phoenix. I grew up in on the outside looking in, you would say like, oh, that's an extremely healthy together family. And I'm super grateful for my upbringing, and sports was a huge part of my upbringing and a big part of my identity. And what I did kind of became who I thought I was even early, and was extremely celebrated in success, and like sports success, social success, relational, all like very, very celebrated when I did well at things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Then so my family now.
Yeah, family now.
Family
You
now.
got just 2 kids? How many do you have?
a couple more than 7.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
7 kids.
7 kids.
7 kids.
That's a good number.
7 kids, 8 and under. Is that right? 9?
No, oldest is 10 now.
10 now. Jeez.
And twin 9-year-olds, 7-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And then like one son.
Yes.
Me and him are buddies. He's 5.
Yes. So you are very healthy.
Yeah.
We can say that to produce that many children.
And then 2 more younger girls, 3 and 1. So yeah.
Love it, man. Love it. And been married to Coley. How long have y'all been married?
12 years.
12 years.
Yep.
Man, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Love it. Well, all right. So I think you kind of know a little bit about what we're trying to do here on the Daily Leader podcast. But as you and I have spent, a lot of time, I think, talking about being healthy and what that looks like, we kind of wanted to just dive in today. You started 2 different companies, right? And you can tell us a little bit about both of them. Identity Hoops International and The Healthy Competitor.
Yeah.
Right? So tell us a little bit about how those both got started.
Yeah. So I've been doing Identity Hoops with a friend of mine, Tyler Kennedy, who lives in Australia now. So we do a lot of work with basketball communities and professional, collegiate, and kid basketball players in Adelaide, Australia. And so extremely grateful for those relationships. But I work with a lot of college basketball coaches.
Okay.
So leadership is crazy in the college basketball world, and lots of unhealth and lots of hurt people hurting people. And so that's a part of my story. I played college basketball here at Arizona State, and then a little bit after that as well. And just found myself getting hurt and performance driven relationships. And it was all about what we can produce and what you can produce for me, and unhealthy people hurting potentially amazing people.
Yeah.
But so a lot of the college basketball world is really rough. It's really tough, and it's changing, and I get to be a part of that.
Sure.
So I'm grateful for that. So I do retreats for college basketball teams. I do coaching development pods where small groups of coaches get together, and I lead them through 5 conversations on how to step into health in leadership. And then I do international trips still, where I take college basketball teams to other countries and get to be a blessing to those teams and the people we come in contact with overseas.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it. So I was thinking, as you were talking about that, I mean, we have a lot of similarities, both in the idea that things can look good on the outside, right?
Yeah.
But not necessarily be as healthy on the inside.
Yeah.
Right? So I think both in families, in businesses, in churches, there's a lot of, I think you and I have experienced, right? Hey, things look good.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not quite as good as it seems. So I think as Brad and I were kind of trying to unpack this and like, hey, where do we want to start? I'd love to know if a business leader, excuse me, comes up to you, right, and says, hey, where do I start, right? Where do I start with, like, I want to see, like, if my team is healthy, or hey, my team maybe isn't that healthy and I want to get them to a healthier spot, right, so that they can compete at a higher level, so we can work at have a healthy workplace. Like, where do we start? Like, where would you start there?
Yeah, thanks. So I think I should probably say too that I do work with business leaders now, and that's something that I've been offering just more recently.
Yeah.
And started a different organization called The Healthy Competitor to do that through that avenue. So there's a ton of parallels with basketball coaches and business leaders, any type of leadership. So where would we start? It's an amazing question, but I think it has to start with me. It has to start with me. I cannot walk somebody through something I haven't experienced yet. And our BS radars are greater than they ever have been as kids and as young adults, as people working for business leaders. Like, if you're trying to walk me through something that you haven't experienced, or trying to get me to be healthy or to perform better, like, I can't trust you if I can't connect the dots to how this means something to you. And so all of this stuff that I've developed with friends, and some of it by myself, it's all stuff that means something to me. It's all of these tools and all of this research, all of this work has been a part of my own journey and story. So I would never walk somebody through something that I haven't experienced.
Yeah, I love that, man. It is, I can't ask you to do something if I'm not willing to do it myself.
For
right?
sure.
Like, I can't ask you to, like, hey, or my team to be healthy if I'm not willing to look at myself first. So Brad, I think you had a couple things that you wanted to dive into with Shane, kind of on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the big things is this idea of a window of tolerance. And so I think about wanting to become a healthy leader and wanting to lead healthy teams, right? So what does the window of tolerance mean to us as we're engaging in leadership with other people, as we're experiencing conflict, as we're trying to be people who, are sincere? We're not one thing privately than we are publicly, but we're the same. I feel like the window of tolerance is this powerful tool. And actually, your brother Jace is the one who explained this to me through his own transformational experience going through it. With a team that he was a part of. And so he and I are on a long drive one day, and he's just walking me through the window of tolerance. And I'm like, man, like, how do I? So this is my moment to kind of get exposed to that tool in that process. And I'm really curious how that framework in particular can help our audience improve their own personal health and health of their teams.
Amazing. Thanks, Brad. I'm glad Jace was engaged. Look,
Jace, I don't know how well you did, explaining it. I mean, we're going to test that now, but it was whatever he said was interesting.
Nothing to do. They're two completely different things now. But
so we have these tools, and I guess part of what we're going to do here today is kind of go through some of the tools that I get to walk through with people. The first thing we always do when I sit down with one person, if I'm doing one coach or one leader, is we answer 3 questions, which are pretty amazing questions that if we know the answers to these 3 questions about each other, we know everything we need to be on a basketball team together or to work together, and it requires some bravery and vulnerability. And then after we answer those 3 questions, we actually do the window of tolerance. So the window of tolerance is the first tool. And what it is it's an emotional regulation tool. And so if I can't self-regulate, then I cannot lead in health. And so we actually have tools where we can stay in our window. So your listeners could like picture a window, when I'm inside the window panes vertically, then I'm in my optimal state. And I can access reason. I can access like who I want to be next. I can make sound decisions based on my values. But what happens is we get triggered or activated. And anytime something, it could be stubbing my toe. It could be my boss saying something disrespectful. It could be a fight. Like you name it. A trigger is a trigger. And we don't ever try to stop the triggers. That would be like trying to stop the wind. Triggers are just there. We're going to get triggered every day. But then we either go above our window, which is called hyper arousal, or we go below our window, which is called hypo. And so I don't know how much we want to get into the differences of that or what's at stake when we go above or below, but mainly is like flight, fight, and freeze. Then there's a fourth one, fawn. So anytime I'm like trying to fight or I have too much energy and I'm giving too much energy, I'm above my window. When I lack energy in my shame, which is when I like shame to think of shame as when I feel less than. Anytime I feel less than, then I'm probably below my window. So lethargic, depressed, can't get off the couch. When I'm above my window, I'm seeing red. I'm just trying to work my way back into some type of justification.
Sure. I love it. So in order to improve my health as a person, the health of my team, I basically have to get clear on where is my window of tolerance. What are the sort of arousal boundaries, either upward or downward, that I need to be aware of in order to stay within this healthy window? And then maybe one follow-up question would be, when I'm hyper or hypo-aroused, how do I get back? How do I use regulation, self-regulation to get back to where I need to be?
Amazing.
Is that the right direction?
Amazing question. So the awareness of your window, the size of your window, what happens like if you're working with a team, for your team to know what your triggers are and what typically happens, what your response is to your nervous system getting triggered. For me, I go above. So I usually always go above. And I just turn into fight mode.
That expresses itself like anger, yelling, using language you wouldn't normally use, like being aggressive.
Overly trying to justify myself, like
defending,
validation, defense mode. That's a great way to describe it. So trying to work myself back into a place of like reason, but it just doesn't work. Right. And I just end up hurting people because I'm hurt or because I'm confused. I'm not in my optimal state of reason. So the cool thing about this tool, the window of tolerance, is that like if you could picture that window again, there's that little space, the window pane or the border, the molding. So in my experience, is the healthier that I get or the more mature that I get, the more I'm able to say, oh, I've just been triggered. I'm moving up and now I'm close. And now I can have a response where I can actually step back into my window without actually completely leaving it. And those tools, I like to think of 3 tools that I've learned. My wife and I first learned about this window of tolerance on a couple's getaway when that's like our priority. Hopefully we could talk about that more through this conversation too, but my marriage will always be my priority. And so all these tools are, I'd say over half of them have been used like to help our marriage when we've struggled. And
I mean, I don't know why you'd be struggling. You have 7 kids.
Sure. There's nothing nothing that would throw you outside of that window, is there?
You should come at bedtime. You should just come experience.
I actually have a great story of the perfect bedtime when I was with you. We'll save that for another day.
I'm sure that's a panic attack. If you told me tonight, hey, look, me and Coley are out. Brad, you're babysitting the kids. You got to put all 7 kids to bed. I would have left side numbness, hot, heat, pass out cold, panic attack. I couldn't do it.
You would not be in your window of tolerance.
No. It would be. I wouldn't get mad. I would just curl up in a ball.
I'm pretty sure
the oldest would have to console me.
Yeah. It seems like the window of tolerance might be perfected during bedtime of like, wow, this is always an opportunity to work on this.
Yeah.
That's how I would feel.
Yeah. The awareness. Yeah.
So we can keep though. I
Yeah.
think that is such an important insight into how leadership works, right? Because no one is coming into a professional situation, a situation at work, as an executive leader or as a coach for an athletic team, like everything is fine at home.
Yeah.
Everything is not fine at home.
Yeah.
Everyone has issues that they're struggling with and things that they're wrestling with. And so one of the things that we found a lot in working with my previous employer was employees are bringing pain and frustration and issues from home into the work environment. And sometimes it's those home things that they're sort of putting them at the top of their window, to use your verbiage.
Yeah.
And then it will be a work thing that pushes them over the
Above
edge.
it.
And so they were already sort of keyed up when a conflict happened, a vendor didn't do something right, a payment didn't come in on time, an employee made a mistake, and now, there's been a cascade of issues as a result of that, and then they're blowing gaskets.
Yep.
But it wasn't work that got them there. It was the personal life that they're having trouble regulating.
100%.
So I think it's wonderful to see you in your marriage saying, okay, this is an environment where I'm growing and I'm learning. Our family's growing at a very rapid rate. We have to work on this relationship. And as a result of that, you've been able to see transformation in your professional work and help countless other people experience the same, but from the opposite angle. They're seeing you for professional issues, but then they're taking the window of tolerance into their marriage to improve their marriage.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another way that I'd like to describe what you just described is like when you leave home in weakness like that, your window is very small. And so I'm actually operating from a really immature state of leadership. Yeah. When I leave home in weakness, then those triggers, like I'm not going to have any time or awareness to actually do the work, which I haven't shared the work yet, but I'm not going to have a chance to stay in the border. I'm going to leave right away. I'm going to go right below or right above immediately. My kids have really small window of tolerances, very small.
Yeah.
And
so does Taylor.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm about to throw a fit currently.
It's amazing how many people are operating in high level leadership positions with small window of tolerances.
Yeah.
And so here's the three tools when I'm above my window. It's breathing. So there's lots of different breath work, self-regulation, breath work, heart rate variability that is directly connected to our breathing. I like to do box breathing with clients or with coaches.
Teach us that. Let's do it together.
Yeah, let's do it. Ready?
Let's do it. Can you show us how?
Yep. Box breathing is, you can follow my finger,
Okay.
but so it's in intervals of 4 seconds. And the research shows that if I can do this 11 times when I'm out of my window, then I'm actually can re-enter myself back into my window. So,
wow. So 11 boxes.
11 boxes. So
Okay.
it'll take 44 seconds.
Okay.
No, it'll take way longer than that.
Well, each box
times 4.
is 16 seconds times 11 times. I have no idea.
I find that even when I do
Doug,
this,
200.
Doug, can you do
where's
the math
Doug?
on that real
Where's
quick?
Doug? We just need an AI Doug. Can we do that?
Man,
That'd
we
be
need
much
an
cheaper
AI
than actually finding a
podcast
Doug.
IT guy.
We don't have a Doug yet to get us the numbers on that.
Yeah.
I can't do 11 times 16 in my head.
yeah.
No chance.
And if you don't have that much time, like you can do it twice. My
Yeah.
kids
Yeah, as
can
many
do
as possible.
it one time. Like my 5-year-old,
Yeah.
he can do it one time and
Doesn't
actually
quite
access
lost
reason
focus.
again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
That's powerful. So let's take a rip on this.
We're gonna do it
I'm
together?
excited. Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Breath work.
All right. Breath work. In, down.
With the healthy competitor.
Yep. We're going to
Yeah.
watch you.
All right. So you follow my fingers. So the horizontal lines, I'm actually breathing. The vertical lines,
Okay.
I'm just holding. Okay. So
Okay.
I'm going to go in, hold, out, hold, in. Okay. Ready?
All right.
So follow my finger. Ready? One more time. Through your nose. Through your nose. Research shows through
Yeah,
your nose.
I lit a little out with my mouth, but then I saw you weren't. So
Yeah.
You made a quick pivot.
Yeah.
Good for you for the quick
Yeah.
pivot. Wait a
No, that's fascinating. So box
Yeah.
breathing. So breath work is sort of piece of work number one to help
Yep.
re-enter the window of tolerance.
Yep.
Okay.
Get my feet back on the ground, which
That's
is
awesome.
a perfect interval to grounding, which is
Yeah.
the second one. And so there's tons of Wim Hof. There's tons of breathing people that you can
Yeah, Wim Hof.
research.
That dude's wild.
Yeah. And so some people would call these like brain hacks in the psych world, but breathing is incredibly important. I here's something interesting is I can actually notice how I'm doing by my breath.
Yeah.
Like if I'm excited, I can notice that by noticing my breath. If I'm depressed, if I'm sad, I can notice that by my breath. If I'm angry, I can notice how I'm doing. If I'm nervous, like in golf or basketball, and I can actually change my behavior by focusing on my breath.
Yeah.
Which is where the only things.
So this is a funny note on that. I have this notification that happens on my watch where it tells me to practice mindfulness or whatever.
Yeah.
I was
And-
thinking it
and
was
to-
going to tell you to breathe. I'm
Yeah.
glad it doesn't have to tell you.
No, it
Just to
does. That is
breathe.
what it is. The mindfulness thing, the reminder, is basically telling you to take deep breaths.
Yeah.
And I found that in moments of frustration, I'm like, I get so irritated by, I'm like, yeah, I know I need to breathe. Like, stop it, But I mean, even my watch knows,
Wow.
right? My watch knows that I need to breathe.
Wow.
And I need to be intentional and set aside time to breathe and to focus. And I think that in one way, it doesn't surprise me to hear you say this.
Yeah.
That the key first thing we do when we're outside of our window of tolerance is we just stop and we just literally take deep breaths.
Yeah. And the guy that taught me this stuff, Jason Ellis, he runs Rosemary Tree, which is a holistic wellness center in Central Phoenix. He would actually say, no, we don't want to breathe deeply because when I'm outside of my window, that can actually do the opposite effect. Like it's
Got it.
I'm
It can exacerbate stress.
Yeah.
wow, you guys said exacerbate at the same time.
We have great vocabulary.
We do. Yeah, that's all we have. We
Taylor actually said plethora in our teaser video.
I did. Yeah, I used the word
Yeah.
plethora because it comes from one of my favorite movies of all time. That's not because I have a big
What'd you
vocabulary.
say? What'd you say?
A plethora of pinatas. Yeah, Three Amigos. Shout out to 1980s, 1990s movies. But that's interesting.
We should do a clips and commentary podcast on the Three Amigos.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Leadership in the Three Amigos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they
how's
do
it
that.
go? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know. Yeah. Oh, we could be the Three Amigos right here. I like that.
Yeah.
So-
So maybe that's another technique. I could get right back into my window if I do that.
Is to do the three. Yeah. So
That
one is
little dance.
breathing, and two is to cross your arms, put your hands on your hips, and then thrust
The
and
little
make a noise.
thrust. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's good.
fantastic.
So
Back in the
instead of deep breathing, we want to focus on slow breathing.
Slow
Okay,
breathing.
good coaching. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's
So
great.
slow breathing.
That's great. So the window is really to help me identify. Like it's not necessarily to say, hey, I'm never going to go above or I'm never going to go below. It's to help me identify.
Oh, you are. Because you are.
Right? Because you
You're
are.
definitely going.
I think that's one of the most challenging things is like sometimes I'm like, okay, great. The goal is to stay within this window, which is
Yeah.
fantastic if you do.
Yeah.
And you made a great point that was like, hey, that space to stay within is organic, right? It kind of
Yeah.
grows if your capacity has grown. If you've had a hard day at home, maybe it's smaller. Maybe if you had a hard day at work,
Yeah.
smaller when you get home. But the goal is to be able to identify where am I, and then get yourself back into
Well said.
the window. Right?
Well said. And then the framework of leadership. If my leader's in his window, then
Yeah.
I'm going to get to stay in my window. But if my leader's out of his window or her window, I'm going to leave mine too. Like it's just, and then we're just,
Yeah, then you're clash. Yeah, you can smash that microphone. That gives a real dramatic effect.
so optimal state of reason
Yeah.
is the goal for
Yeah.
window. Grounding is the second technique to enter back in.
And so what does that mean? Yeah, explain.
Um,
That sounds kind of sketchy to me.
yeah.
I don't know. Sounds kind of woo woo. Like,
Yeah.
but explain it. Like, what is that?
Well, again, when I learned this I'll just do one grounding technique. But think about like feet on the ground. So if I'm out of my window, I've left, like I'm feet off of the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. Grounding. It has everything to do with my senses. So my 5 senses. So ready? Which one of you wants to do this exercise?
I want to go. Yeah, taste.
Wait, no, I don't think you.
That's one of the senses.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think that was his question, but
Okay.
No, just which one of you wants to do the
that's
exercise?
what
I
he
wanna
was
do it.
asking.
Okay, Brad,
okay,
yeah,
Brad's
let's
in.
go.
Yeah,
Ready?
that's okay.
Yeah.
This
Brad-
is amazing too. Like I do this with my kids. It's this actually like can re-enter myself, ground myself back into my current state.
Yeah.
Or back to the way that I want my current state to be.
Right.
So the first one is sight. So tell me 5 things you can see.
Okay. I can see Jesus, Shane, Taylor. I can see the mic, and I can see this light.
Great. Tell me 4 things you can touch.
My legs, the chair, the ground, the seat.
Yep. And 3 things that you can hear.
I can hear the vent, which is giving me anxiety about the quality of our audio. I can hear your 2 voices, and I can hear my own voice.
Yeah. 2 things that you can smell.
I can smell my deodorant, and I think I can smell either coffee or tea.
And then 1 thing you can taste. And if you can't taste it, you can imagine it.
I can taste the mint from my tea.
Well done. Well done.
There it is.
So I'm
grounded.
grounded.
You're
So
grounded.
that is grounding.
That's
I don't know if you
Okay.
are grounded individual, but you did a grounding exercise in that moment.
This is the most grounded I've ever been.
Yeah, that's your wife would agree with that.
Yeah.
Becca
Yeah.
would say you had 1 moment of clarity, Brad. You are really
Yeah.
grounded.
And by the way, same techniques, both of those techniques, breathing and grounding, apply for when I'm below, when I'm hypo,
Yeah.
when I'm depressed, lethargic, numb. The third one that is below in research and what we know, if you're below your window, is physical activity. You're not going to be able to enter back into your window if you can't get off the couch or can't stop scrolling.
That makes sense.
So I need to move. I need
So,
to move.
so in the leader context, because we think both leaders and following, right? So if I'm a leader, I don't want to enter into necessarily maybe conflict or conversation outside of that window, right? So
Regulate, then communicate.
okay, that's good. That's really well
Regulate,
said.
then communicate.
Right.
I can't
And-
talk my way back into my window.
Say I'm not the leader, I'm the follower in this moment,
Yeah.
right? And you said, hey, then that leader, the chances are that they're going to take you out of it,
Yeah.
right? You'd want to be trying to do the same thing. So if you're the follower, you also need to be as grounded as you can and notice if your leader's taking you out,
Yeah.
right? Because if they're taking you out, I mean, I think we've all probably had some kind of leadership experience or coaching experience where it became more damaging to me because I wasn't grounded in that moment,
Wow.
right? I wasn't within my window of tolerance. So I would assume, and tell me if I'm wrong, if somebody's dragging me out, the chances that I feel more pain or feel more damaged
Yeah.
may be increasing if I can't get myself back into it. Right?
Wow. Amazing.
So
And this is one of the things that I want to talk about, because when you guys asked me to come on, because I'm currently like thinking about leadership a little bit differently than I used to, because you guys help me in this. We could process it together, but it's
let's
like
do it.
the process of following is leading,
Yes.
right? So like if my leader just by rank is out of his or her window, and then I'm aware of that, like, so like when you said if I'm following in this instance, like, so what would you do? Like,
Put me on the spot.
role play, like, what made
Do I get to
what
be
made you
mad at
think-
Brad
What made
or
you
you?
think of that, like, as a follower?
What made me think of that as a follower? Man, that is a great question. Yeah, what made me think of that was the fact that I was thinking, man, if somebody else is going to drag me outside of my window, I also don't want to go there. That's going to be that leads to even more catastrophe.
Yeah.
Right. So that takes whatever
2 people out of their window is much worse than one person out of their window.
all of us have probably, not that any of us have ever gotten into a fight with our wives, but if we had, we know what that's like.
Yes.
Right? Like,
I've heard.
Yeah, you've heard
Stories.
rumors, but you've never lost your cool. That's the nice thing about you, Brad. We can always count on you to be a straight shooter there, right? But when I think about that, and I think about the times that either, because this is the best context that I have, because I haven't thought about it in terms of a work context. So I'm going to stay personal for a minute, and then we can bring it back to work.
Perfect.
Is like in those times where I am having a argument, a fight with my spouse, the times that I think shorten the gap and the distance, right, between what we actually want to accomplish, are the times where one of us can quickly regulate back into that window. And so I think the ways that, now, again, maybe you're not traditional lead follow in that sense, But the ways that I've been able to do that are by either asking good questions, asking for space, saying, "Hey, let's come back to this," right? And I'm not a space person. I'm like, come hell or high water, we're getting this figured out now.
Yeah.
But I have realized, like, my wife has been able to do that. I know one time she's like, "Hey, we're just not going to get anything done right now."
Yeah.
And I think it's late. And she's like, "I love you, and we'll come back to this in the morning."
Yeah.
And like that instant, like almost my anger and my, like that led me to go, whoomp, like kind of almost back into my window. So I would think the same thing, it's probably more challenging. Like there are different challenges in both situations. One is strictly emotional, right? I think anytime we're in an emotional relationship, we're at home, that has its own challenges. The other being like a work environment is, hey, if my boss, and I can tell that they're outside of it and they're kind of going off, that can be, really challenging. But I think some of those things still apply of like, hey, maybe we put a pin in this conversation right now.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, maybe we just call a quick timeout.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to take a bathroom break. Like, hey, I just need
I
a
need
minute
to vomit real quick.
Yeah, like, hey, you know what? Like, this project is super important, and I think even if you can own it without blaming it on that person, right? So, hey, the project is super important. The project that we're really pissed about right now, and I just need a minute or two to think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
That way, you're not putting it back on your boss, because that's never a good thing. Like, hey, you're outside your window. I'm sure that would go really like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I'm sure that would go really well.
Right.
But that's what I'm thinking in terms of following. That's the way that I would see it.
I think as you're exploring this, you've got to look at a little bit of research. One author is Barbara Kellerman. She's with Harvard. She's the Kennedy School there, where they're studying government. She wrote 2 books. One's called Bad Leadership, and one is called Followership. And those would be excellent resources as you're exploring, like, what is the difference between leader and follower. Another one is called The Courageous Follower by a guy named Ira Shaleff. And I think I'm mispronouncing his last name, Chaleff. But both of those resources are remarkable because they sort of put into words what all of us feel, which is the sort of two-way relationship of influence, right? The leader can, to your point, if the leader is going nuclear, like I'm going too, and I don't know why that is, but I know that the gravitational pull of a follower to their leader is at work in that moment. And so it's incredibly difficult to have a boss, an employer of some kind, a supervisor who is really, really sort of leaving the ground, to use your verbiage, and to stay grounded in that moment. But it is possible because if we know these tools and we can self-regulate, we can sort of watch them leave and stay pretty planted in our reason, and we can kind of fight through that process, right? Especially if it's a pattern of behavior that we see often. And so a part of what Kellerman and Shaleff get to in their work is that followers really have options, right? That healthy followers are ones who basically maintain autonomy. They maintain some sense of personal autonomy that says, like, I am not my leader is not me. Like, I do not have to do what is expected of me in this instance. I can do what I believe is right rather than what's expected. And so that separation, and I'm sure you have really great verbiage for that. Your suite of tools.
Is it?
Well said. And I think that that's why I said, like, following is leading. But and we can,
that's good.
We would have to dissect that more. But I think what you're saying is the choice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, if I have agency and choice, then I can follow. So here's, like, because the truth is, if this is a Simon Sinek definition of leadership, it's like, but if I can make the person next to me feel heard, seen, and understood, that's all leadership is.
That's really good.
Like, it has nothing to do with, like, dragging or, like, vision and, like, here's where I'm headed and you should join me. Like, with the traditional, like, I'm in front type of leadership, it's like, I see you, I feel you, and I understand you.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do in my life. I just want to sit next to people who are trying to figure it out just like me.
Yeah.
Especially high performers. Like I'm drawn to high performers, and basketball coaches are high performers. Business leaders, they're high performers. And I just want to sit down with them and say, I see you, I feel you, and I understand. Right. And if my team under me could say that to the leader, they're actually leading the leader.
Yeah.
They just don't have rank. And I think we get confused by rank. I really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you have the authority does not necessarily mean that the leadership goes hand in hand with that. Man, that is really powerful to just be seen and known and heard, right? Going both directions.
Yeah.
Right. As a follower, going, hey, if I can give that to my leader and let them know that those things are true.
Amazing.
Man, that's super. Like it empowers them even in that moment that maybe is not their brightest moment or their best moment.
Yeah.
Right. And then same if you are the leader to be able to have your team feel that way.
Yep.
Man, a lot of that brought me into kind of the adult development stages. I know we don't have like, all day. We're just going to have to have Shane come back like 17 times, maybe 18 times.
I love it.
But kind of getting into kind of like the self-transforming mind at the end, right? Which the 5 state, do you want to just quickly go over the?
Yeah, quickly. Bob Keegan, Lisa Leahy, Harvard, Oxford, all the smart things that you could say. Like, just imagine me saying more of their pedigree.
Just on and on and on and on.
Immunity to Change is their work. It's a book, and what we're trying to figure out is why adults stop growing.
Yeah.
Why we maybe by the time we're 13 years old, like we're still operating in that way. And so they came up with 5 stages, and it's been fascinating. And the first time I was like, so again, this is a tool for me, for Shane, like, whoa, I'm still operating in stage 3 a lot of my life. And so, yeah, probably shouldn't go through all 5 stages. That would take a really long time.
Sure.
That's like a full-on hour session that I do with clients and leaders.
I don't have anywhere to be until 4. So.
Yeah, well, we can just keep rolling. No. Yeah, I know, totally with you.
But the gist of it is that like we have these frames of reference, and we have these circles and loyalties and allegiances that they're actually keeping us stuck. Because what keeps us safe is also keeping me stuck, which is fascinating to me. And so if I stay inside this safe circle, then I stop growing.
Yeah, stay there for a minute. That is a really powerful line.
Yeah, and I've seen that in my own life and leadership time after time, especially most recently in the last 90 days, launching Pattern Talent as kind of this full project. I'm finding that all of the things that I'm afraid to do are all of the things that I need to do.
Wow.
That's difficult, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think I heard you say just that exact same thing, that, this comfort, this idea of safety is exactly the thing that we don't need if we want to grow.
Yeah.
And I know that can go too far, especially understanding what the meaning of safety is in this context. But
Yeah.
what does that mean to grow, to change? And when I was exposed to that idea of the self-transforming mind, I was like, that is who the future Brad McDonald is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to be that.
Yeah.
How do I do it?
Yeah.
That's what I aspire to.
Yeah.
That's what I aspire to for my wife and my children, for the people that I influence, for us sitting here. How do we become that person?
And can you unpack what the self-transforming mind is? Like just a brief, I know we don't have time to get into it, but when
so that's stage 5, and they say like 1 to 3% of the world operates in this frame of reference, this mindset.
It's pretty high percentage.
If you actually
throw out the percentage, I'm like, oh yeah.
I don't know. Well, have 1 to 3% of the people that I've met, have they been here? I don't know. Anyways, continue.
Brad is.
Yeah, Brad is definitely. Brad has arrived. Welcome.
I said the future. The future.
God, isn't he grounded?
Hey, you're the one coaching Jesus. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah.
It's kind of gradual. It's kind of like, so stage 3, I'm in my circle. Stage 4, I'm like outside of that circle of people that grew up similarly to me, think the same way, but I'm still like inside of a bigger circle.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to think on my own. Stage 5, here's a quick, like, I'm able to embrace paradox.
Mm.
Like, I'm able to, like, live in the gray.
Mm.
I'm able to, like, say, hey, like, there's a number here. It's a 6 to me, but it's a 9 to you, and we're both right.
Yeah.
Right? If there was a number right in front of us.
Yeah.
And so I'm no longer interested in seeing life from my own perspective. I'm, like, just as curious about your perspective.
Yeah.
And so the paradox, like, I can fully embrace it. I can kind of watch my life from a 30,000 foot view from where I was and where I want to go next.
That's really good. I have a mentor his name's Dave Rhodes. Shout out to Dave. He says, paradox is always the answer to polarization. Paradox is always the answer to polarization. And so I had the blessing and the benefit of being exposed to that phrase probably at like 19 or 20.
Amazing.
And so it's this thing that for whatever reason at that time, like sank in so deeply to my heart and mind. And I feel like it's extremely difficult to navigate paradox in relationships, in religion. You know, all of us come from, you know, homes where we were raised in a very religious environment, and in leadership and business, especially in business, there's different ethical situations where paradox is just like, man, I don't know if this is right or if this isn't what I expected it to be. And I think half of leading is just recognizing, oh, this is paradoxical, and I need to get beyond the simplicity of black and white and recognize my ability to navigate the gray area of this situation is what makes me the leader.
Amazing.
Right?
Well said.
And so that idea of like, man, a self-transforming mind is someone who can navigate paradox. I'm like, man, that's what all leaders aspire to, really.
I wish.
Well, yeah, good point.
That's
Many
not
don't,
necessarily.
and that is the problem.
Most leaders are operating on stage 3.
Man.
Yeah. And why is that?
Yeah.
Because it's safe.
Okay.
because uncertainty is scary.
Right.
Yep.
Certainty is right where, like, certainty. The brain is constant. As we're wired.
It's always trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah. No, don't go there.
Yeah.
We don't know what's over there.
Yeah, so
we know what's right here. Right.
So the ability to sit in that tension and literally just sit with it.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily like, I mean, yes, at some point lead, but the ability to sit in that tension, right? It is much harder, I would assume, to lead somebody. Like typically we think of leadership as in like, hey, we're going there and this is why, right?
Yeah.
And we're all going in a certain direction, rather than sitting in the tension of there are multiple directions that we can go in.
Yeah.
Right. And then choosing this is the one that our company is going to go down. But like, man, that is interesting. I keep coming back to what keeps us safe, keeps us stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you just
Sounds like you
that?
have something else to say about that.
What's that? No, I
Let's talk about where you're stuck right now.
yeah, you
in
want to
all
talk?
areas.
Oh man, where am I stuck? I mean, I super agree. Like, so many of the things that I use to like keep me safe are that, and that's probably why I keep coming back to it. So like all of the the bad habits that I have in my life are things that like I'm trying to create safety for myself.
Oh, wow.
Like they are all ways that I'm trying to say like whatever distraction I need, like I feel safer doing that.
Yeah.
Or I feel safer doing something that I don't even think, like I will stick within the bounds of my life that I know that is safe rather than go out and explore something that is new. Like that. And I think in leadership, it is easy, right? To stay there, to stay at what we know, to stay at like, hey, we're going in this direction. Mm-hmm. I think this is really challenging even in religion, especially. Like it is really hard not that we're going to get too far into the weeds of bringing in everybody's religion into this, right? But like it is so much safer to say that this is the truth than it is to sit with somebody who has an opposing view and just listen to them.
For sure.
And not feel threat. Have you ever done this? Because I've done this where like I've had conversations with somebody who has an opposing view, maybe even both Christians or both whatever, but my heart rate actually starts to go up when they start talking about their side. It's super interesting for me. It's like it's some of those moments where I start to get like,
it makes you feel nervous to disagree with people because you're worried about how they will judge you based on that disagreement. And when you bring the question of heaven and hell, right? These cosmic questions
Sure.
into that dynamic, I think it really heightens the intensity of the conversation, and it moves you away in the window of tolerance space for sure.
It absolutely can.
Yeah.
In the immunity to change, they address what you guys are talking about.
Really?
Yeah, with Christians especially.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's really
just
hard.
And I'm gonna have to
interesting-
do this. This will be my next audiobook. I'm excited.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have found that I've worked with businesses this year and basketball teams for years,
Yeah.
and I have found that there's a resistance to growth and change,
Yeah.
and maturing in the Christian organizations or
Yeah.
in the Christian leaders.
It's
Sure, that's scary. Oh, so okay, just to double back. So self-transforming mind.
Yeah,
So paradox.
yeah,
We have to be able to navigate paradox. What are some of those other principles as I seek to become a self-transforming mind?
yeah.
that I
I
really
think
need to anchor down
you
in.
guys both touched on it. For me, this is for me. Like when I'm able to replace judgment with curiosity,
yeah.
then I'm able to
It's a
move.
Ted Lasso moment.
Yeah, Walt Whitman.
Yeah, Walt Whitman, that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, or is it like Chris
Be
Farley,
curious.
David Spade, Tommy Boy? There's a Tommy Boy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Tommy.
know?
Didn't he say that? Fat guy in a little coat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Big moment of curiosity
that's
there.
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, if I'm curious, then I'm able to be. If Shane is curious, I'm able to access the person that I want to be next,
Mm.
as opposed to just the person that I was.
What empowers me to be curious and not judgmental? Where does that come from? Because I think we could all say like, yeah, let's stay curious, but we just said, hey, most people don't get to this level,
Yeah,
and curiosity is one of the keys. So what empowers me to stay curious?
yeah. Well, here's what I went to is I think what my brain is telling me is like, no, you've done enough. You've done enough. Like that's gonna be painful.
Mm.
And so let's not go there. And so I guess another way to describe what I just said is ego,
Sure.
right? So my ego is constantly telling me to categorize things and like, no, that what he just said, put him over there. He's in this camp. Polarization, right? So judgment always comes with separation,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to just the opposite of that would be curiosity.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Like, how's he the hero of his own story?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it seems like I can stay curious if I'm really grounded, right? Not necessarily like those, because when I was thinking of that particular picture of that stage, right? Here am I in the middle, and everybody else can kind of operate and come and go
Yeah.
around me,
Mm.
and I'm not necessarily like affected in terms of because I have that thought or entertain that with somebody or stay curious.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything about me,
for sure.
right? That's actually, I think, a really hard thing to separate. It's like,
Yeah.
if I entertain this idea, what does that say about me? But that's that leader that I want to see people become and that I want to become myself is one that is able to stay curious and grounded,
Yeah.
live in that paradox and be okay with like, hey, let's explore a multitude of things here.
And all the data, Taylor, all the data of everything you just said is like that. That's healthy leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
it's not just like, yeah, I feel like no, like these like NBA coaches, like everybody's got mindfulness coaches, everybody's got breathing coaches.
Yeah.
Like pro golfers, like everybody that's in leadership today, like you need to be grounded.
Yeah.
You need to be present right now, like mindful of
Yeah.
where you're at right now so that I can access curiosity.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you were going to help me increase my self-awareness. Like, let's assume I need to kind of work on this a little bit.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't dare to go there, but if we did, right?
If we
If we
did
said
go there, what would you say top 2-3 things? I mean, I know breathing, okay, grounding, I understand that. But what do I need to do on a
Yeah.
daily, weekly basis to actually move the needle on
Yeah.
my own self-awareness? And then I would say follow up to that is, how do I help bring other people along in that process, right? A leader is only as good as the people he or she is developing. So I want to be able to say, hey, I'm experiencing this transformation. Let me show you the way too.
Yeah. So when I do self-awareness tools, it's through the primary. Well, here's the best question. Here's not a tool. Here's a question. Here's the best question you can ask. How am I affecting you?
How am I affecting you?
Yeah.
So when I'm working
if-
with a client on,
Yeah.
hey, we're building leadership systems and processes. You keep running into these problems.
Yeah.
I'm empowering that client with, how are they're going to their constituents, employees, whatever, the people they're leading, and saying, how am I affecting you?
How am I affecting you?
Yeah.
Best question you could ask.
In my marriage with my kids,
Best question you could ask.
business
your
partnership
kids.
with Taylor, how am I affecting
Well, that's a scary question.
Scary. Super scary.
Yeah. That's like, hey, we're going to leave. Depending on how the person answers and how vulnerable they're willing to be too. But
Yeah.
how am I affecting
I mean, kids have no filter. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
Yeah. And Dad, when you're loud, it's super scary.
you?
But Jossie, I'm just trying to help you understand. Yeah, but Dad, you're just loud, and that's scary.
Yeah.
And so then I have to become aware of like, oh, I can't parent.
But think about this. If there was someone in my home twice my size raising their voice
Yeah.
at me,
Yeah.
I would get scared.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
I'd be like, yeah, I'd launch right through that window frame.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite questions.
how am I affecting
How am I
How
affecting
am I
you?
affecting you? Okay, I can do that.
Number 2
Yeah.
is this one. We won't get into it, but it's called the Johari window, invented by.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's
That's a good one.
it's four windows. We have a window theme today, which
Yeah,
is
we do.
cool.
I like that.
We're opening the windows to
so
our
it's like-
hearts.
These 4 windows are like what I know and what you know. So that's like
So when I know something and you know something,
it's in the open
man,
area.
that's aware. We have
Yeah, I'm aware. You're aware. Self-awareness. And then there's things that I know that you don't know. So things that secrets.
Yeah.
Things that I'm keeping hidden for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Then we go top right, which is things that you know that I don't. And this is where self-awareness comes into play.
Yeah.
Things that you know about me that I don't, or things that I'm doing that are the effect that I'm having that I don't even know. And then the cool thing is that the bigger, so anytime I move something from this bottom left up into the open area, what happens is this one shrinks and this one gets bigger. So my open area is getting bigger. Then if I'm also becoming self-aware of the effect I'm having on others, then that corner is moving and my open area is getting really big.
Yeah.
Because,
That's awesome.
right? So that's the goal, is the open area, that top left square is as big as possible.
Yeah.
Healthy teams.
So
Healthy
more
leader.
information that I know and that you know,
Yeah.
seeing that amount of information increase
Yep.
and create more context around that.
Yeah.
That's where leadership health and team health, relational health comes
Yes.
in.
Yep.
That's great.
And the work, all these tools, the work is for me. So if I sit down with you, or a golfer, or a team leader that's leading 100 people, like the filter cannot be, how's my team going to be healthier?
Yeah.
The filter is how am I going to step into health?
Yeah.
And why is that again? Because I think you made that argument really well. For the sake of the listener on this side of the conversation,
Yeah.
why is it that it has to start with the leader
Yeah.
for the sake of the leader?
I can't walk someone through something I haven't experienced.
Yeah.
Right. So if I haven't stepped in it, if I haven't gotten in the mud myself, then I'm just a clanging gong, right? I'm just another leader that's regurgitating information that somebody else told me.
Yeah.
But it's when I've experienced it, when I've felt it, empathy, right, that I can walk somebody else through it.
Yeah.
So and then that fourth square, were you about to say something?
No, go for
that. The bottom right one is something that I don't know and you don't know.
Hmm.
And that's the really exciting thing, is like,
It's discovery.
whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what I was going to call it. I was going to say that's a really scary thing.
Yeah.
But
It's true.
that is a
It's true.
much healthier perspective, is that the curiosity about, what are the things that, my team member is unaware of and I'm unaware of, that we can go discover together. And there
Yeah.
can be psychological safety. you know,
Amazing.
just to be you're on the team.
Amazing.
You know, neither of us are perfect. We're growing and we're learning and we're in that process together.
Psych safety has to be the goal for a leader.
Yeah.
Psychological safety
Yeah.
to everything is like,
Yeah.
can I make a mistake and be loved in it?
Yeah.
Can I make a mistake and be even celebrated in it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like for the bravery of it. Like that's psychological safety. So let me share a story from my own life. Is so that bottom right area, the unknown to me and unknown to you, what happens when we get curious is that we end up learning things about ourselves that we don't even know exist. And so basketball is my background. I love basketball. I love working with basketball teams, coaches, players. And so I was helping coach a basketball team. We were stuck in traffic in a bus or a van. And there was a guy on this basketball team that grew up. A lot of basketball is inner city, single family, parent, rough, something that I didn't experience in my own story. And so it was hard for me to connect for a big part of my life, even though I was around stories like this a lot. And there was this guy on this team that was really struggling to get in line or to comply with what this white coach was telling him to do, and myself. And so something happened on that long trip where we were stuck in traffic where I just said, you know what? Like, it wasn't even on purpose, but I just started saying, like, tell me more. Like 3rd grade, selling drugs. Like, tell me more. Like, what did you feel? Like, who did you look up to growing up? And I didn't have an agenda. Like I didn't at any point in that story say, yeah, but you should have, you ought to, or because of this, or silver line it, look how amazing you are now. Like I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
I actually was just curious and embraced his perspective of life. And I actually understood and was able to be like, man, I would never listen if I experienced what you experienced. Right.
Yep.
And so I was becoming aware of somebody else's story and embracing something that I hadn't yet. And what was happening through that. And I have 7 kids. And so I listen to Disney. So this will come full circle. Okay. We listen to Disney songs in the car, on Pandora, the Disney hits. Okay.
Still use
You'll learn
Attaboy.
Yeah.
That's what I caught.
What do you do? Spotify?
I'm an Apple Music weirdo.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
Okay. And so
Me too. What?
So Pocahontas comes on.
Yeah.
And when you walk in the footsteps of a stranger, you learn things you never knew. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
In that van
That's awesome.
with that guy.
Dude.
I learned things I never knew about him. And then later I was like, whoa, about me.
Yeah.
I learned that I have empathy and that I want to make a difference in this world and I want to lead people into health. And so these 2 organizations, I don't know if they would exist. They probably would, just a different story would have come up, but that's my journey is like, whoa, I learned that I just want to sit with people and learn what I don't know, right?
Man.
So,
dude, that's such a powerful story of just sitting and listening and staying curious, right?
Yeah.
And just giving
Yeah.
him the opportunity to share and you that just being able to just sit there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think it's an encouragement to all of our listeners to embrace curiosity
Yeah.
about yourself and about the people you lead, and to recognize that curiosity will lead to self-awareness,
Yeah.
and that the greater the self-awareness you have, that will spill over into all the people that you're leading.
Yeah.
And so things like the health of your team, the clarity of your communication, and I think just overall effectiveness of execution should be some of those 2nd, 3rd order effects.
Yeah.
of
Well said.
Staying curious and being self-aware.
Yeah. I mean, kind of one of the things that I'm taking away, I mean, there's a plethora of things that I'm taking away from today. Got to always work that in. But like one of the things that I found fascinating is probably the best way to help your team become self-aware is to work on being self-aware yourself. Right? And just leading by example.
Yeah.
because the best way for somebody else to be curious is to see curiosity demonstrated to them. I actually go back to your training model that we were talking about, right? Like, like I
Four
do,
stages
you
of
watch.
competence.
Yeah, the 4 stages of competence, right? I do, you watch. What is it then? You do, I help. You know, you do. What is it? I'm messing it up now. Now
Yeah,
that
we're
I'm
gonna have
talking
to
about the
we're gonna
tool.
have to severely edit that.
Goodness gracious.
Um,
Yeah. Go back and wipe all of that, Jesus. Anyways, no, but again, right. It comes with the first thing is I do it. And if I really want to help my team, if I really want to help my business, if I really want to if I want to have a bunch of leaders that are empowered to be in a healthy community and healthy culture, the best way to do that is really to work on myself. Right.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just think that that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
super challenging because I think in leadership, we want to go, okay, well, give me the tools to get all of these people in
For sure.
line. And we're just kind of flipping the deal to go, hey, actually, the best way to get them in line is to go, you need to flip the mirror on yourself.
Yep.
And you got to start asking those questions about yourself.
Yeah, that's what I love about these tools. You know, the window of tolerance, some of these techniques, the Johari window. You know, it's not just that it's a window, right? It's a picture of an ideal model. What should things look like?
Yeah.
It's a mirror, to your point, of how do I compare to health, and then it's finally a lens for, are other people in my organization, on my team, healthy?
Yeah.
And how is that affecting me?
Yeah.
And how am I affecting them? So it's a picture, a mirror, and a lens. And so I think that I love using that illustration as a way of thinking about these types of frameworks.
It's amazing. What my daughter won't clean up her room, right?
Yeah.
I need to fix her.
Yeah, correct. Instead of,
Well, what is the environment that dad has created?
yeah.
Mhm.
What does my room look like?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, my actions too.
Yeah.
But like actions come from environment.
Mm.
So my behaviors are a direct result of my environment. Like
That's really good.
casinos in Vegas, like they don't have windows.
Yeah.
They pump stuff into the air.
Very smart.
The environment is so that I can lose track of time and awareness. So that, right. And I do the same thing in my own life, in my own leadership. It's like the environment, the behavior, my employees keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
Well, how am I contributing to that? By the policies, by the environment, by the climate of the workspace, or for the Kuyper home. Like, yeah. So, and I can't control that, but I definitely can do my own work on how to be healthy, how to be emotionally regulated, and be self-aware, so that I can show up and be the dad or leader that I want to be.
That's so good, man.
Amazing.
That's so good.
Taylor, any final thoughts or questions
Man,
for Shane today?
I mean, the truth is I have about 17,000 thoughts or questions.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think, so the three of us in this room, like, are some of the people I talk to on the phone the most. So I always have, like, it feels like, hey, we're sitting on the phone again, you know, having a conversation. Shane and I will do this, or we'll go on the man date. We had lobster the other week. It was fancy. We had lobster and we talked live. Yeah. No, it was real. Shout out to,
Great, that's awesome.
What's the place called?
It's like, it's the same people that do salad and go. I think.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
really-
Yeah.
I can't remember.
They put out lobster and go. That's not what it's called. But it
Let's start our
it
own.
should be lobster and go, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, you're taking me back to my window into real estate days right now.
there we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're blowing up.
That's right.
Yeah.
They are. No, I mean, all that to say, the number of questions that I have are like 2 minute accounts. So I'm excited to have you back. Because there's so many different, I think, just avenues we can go in terms of what does it look like to be a healthy competitor? How does my identity play into that? What does that look like? Love to unpack some more stories. You know, you got some great basketball stories that I've heard in the past. But no, I really am just grateful for your time, man. I think you've done a fantastic job sharing. I'm hoping that Brad is now self-aware. Did you make it?
I'm working.
You've arrived.
I would say I've increased by 1%.
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
If you could leave us with one thought. I know this is probably the most open-ended, hardest, but you know, if you could leave us with like one thought of the thing that you think is the most transformational, what would it be from your work? I'm gonna be that turd and just ask you that question.
Yeah. I guess let's just keep it simple based on our conversation today. It's like what's keeping you safe, and how's that also keeping you stuck? And then who could you trust to tell that? Go tell somebody something that you feel safe in, where if you were to let go of that, take a risk, be brave, how could you unloosen
I love that.
the grip on that and what might be next?
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, it's hard to wrap that up. I loved hanging and talking with you
No, I know
guys.
this has been this has been great.
So awesome. Okay, so where do people find you if they want to learn more?
Yep.
If they maybe want to become a client for their athletic organization, or maybe for their company or their ministry, what have you.
Yeah.
Where would they find you?
I could give you my home address.
That would be
I think he meant more specifically probably
like
website.
Digital,
maybe, but you could give him your home
a handle, social media account.
Might be interesting. Who
Email.
shows up at your house? You may get a lot more people. Coley, there's some people coming over for dinner tonight. They may just show up.
Thehealthycompetitor.com is I guess where you could start, and then reach out through there, and then social media is weak. My game is weak right now. Thehealthycompetitor.com would be a cool place to start. And then I'm doing emails, and
so they can subscribe to that, right?
Yeah.
How would I go from The Healthy Competitor? If I went to that website,
Yeah.
can I say, okay,
You
perfect.
can subscribe.
Yeah, love it.
I love it, guys. We'll have Shane back on here probably sometime early spring,
Okay.
which we're very excited about.
Fantastic.
And we'll look forward to exploring more about what it means to be a healthy competitor
Yeah.
at home and at work. Shane, thank you for your time.
Yeah, man.
Taylor,
Thank
as
you.
always.
Yep.
Listen in next time to the Daily Leader Podcast.